1403 BCE, the Giza Plateau of Egypt, home to the Great Pyramids. Pharaoh Amenhotep II rules the land. His younger son, Prince Tutmos, has come to Giza to hunt gazelle. But this royal hunting ground has an extraordinary past.
If you go back around 1,000 years, the Giza Plateau is a very important place of monumental buildings. It's there that some amazingly large pyramids are built. However, at this time, it's fallen into disrepair. Most of the structures have been covered or partially covered by the desert sands, and it's largely ignored.
By the time of Prince Tutmos, the Giza Plateau is already over 1,000 years old and already ancient. It's become this playground, really, for the royal family. They race their chariots, they hunt, they use it for these different expeditions.
So according to legend, Tutmos was out on a hunting trip, and he was looking for a place to get out of the hot, burning Egyptian sun. And he found shelter next to this object, and as he got closer to it, it turned out that this object was a massive stone head protruding from the desert sands.
He falls asleep and has a dream, and in this dream, a god comes to him, the god Horus, who says, if you free my body from this sand, I will make sure that you're king.
Because Prince Tutmos was not the heir apparent for the throne of Egypt, this sounded like a great deal for him. And so Prince Tutmos then goes about restoring this giant statue to its former glory.
Once the prince begins clearing away the sand, an extraordinary and mysterious sculpture takes shape. A towering figure carved from stone, now known as the Great Sphinx of Giza.
Its body is about 250 feet long, which is nearly a football field long, 66 feet high, and the shape of it is the head of a king and the body of a lion.
Some have estimated that it must have taken something like 1 million man-hours of labor to carve this thing. That would be the equivalent of something like 100 workers working full-time over the course of 3 years.
It is a marvelous statue, and it's all made from one piece of limestone. And Tutmos calls it Har-Achet, which means Horus in the horizon.
Horus, who spoke to Tutmos in this dream, is a god associated with kingship, but also with the sun god Ra. And so, after clearing the sands around this giant sculpture, Tutmos' dream comes true. He does, in fact, become king in around 1400 BCE.
Analysis of paint remnants discovered on the statue reveal a fascinating truth about its appearance. Experts now believe the face and body of the Sphinx were painted a striking deep red with dark eyeliner, while the nimbus, or royal headdress, bore the noble colors of the pharaoh, a vibrant blue interlaced with gold stripes. It's believed that for hundreds of years, the Egyptian Sphinx stood as a symbol of power and divine protection. But as centuries pass and the kingdom of Egypt falls, the desert once again begins to reclaim the mighty structure.
And so with it, the sands of time come back. They start to bury the Sphinx again until it's buried all the way up into its neck. It remains buried in this way for thousands of years until 1817, when an Italian explorer rediscovers the Sphinx and wants to figure out what's beneath it.
They set about to uncover the Sphinx from the desert sands, but unfortunately, the task at hand is much harder than expected. The sand keeps coming into their excavation pits, and it's just this near impossible task for him to uncover the Sphinx, to the point where he actually abandons the project altogether and gives up.
It's not until some 100 years later, when in 1922, the archaeologist Howard Carter finds King Tut's tomb, that reignites an interest in all things Egypt. So now a French archaeologist mounts another expedition to go down and take a closer look at the Sphinx, and he does a series of expeditions in the 1920s and 1930s. They're able this time to fully clear away the sand, and when they do, they're just amazed at what they see, this again, humongous sculpture of this reclining lion with a human head.
Now that the Great Sphinx can be seen in all its glory, people around the world are in awe of this ancient wonder.
The Sphinx is an icon. When you see it for the first time, it's the world's largest mammoth statue, at least for 4,000 years, and it's a mystery.
The kind of engineering and workmanship that would have been required to construct this thousands of years ago is really quite remarkable.
But there's an even bigger mystery that still baffles the experts to this day.
What's most likely is that the Sphinx is a symbol of power to a pharaoh. Now the question is, which pharaoh was it?
The first step in trying to figure out the architect who made the Sphinx is to try to identify who the model was for the Sphinx's face. Almost certainly a pharaoh. And so scholars have gone back and compared the image of the Sphinx to the various statues that are still existing, and the closest match that they have found has been to the pharaoh Khufu, who was also the pharaoh who oversaw the construction of the Great Pyramid of Giza, which is close by.
Khufu reigned Egypt for about 30 years. Back in 2550 BCE, he has the biggest, most fascinating, most famous structure ever created, the Great Pyramid of Giza. Yet we only have one confirmed statue that shows us his face.
The only named portrait that we have of Khufu is a tiny little statue that's really only about 3 inches tall. It's got broad eyes across the face. Also, this small little 3-inch statue didn't have a beard.
Most of the pharaohs that we see are depicted with a long beard. So the fact that we have this Sphinx head and we have this statue of Pharaoh Khufu, both beardless, leads us to believe that maybe he's the one who had it built.
Khufu is probably more familiar to people as Cheops, because this was the ancient Greek name for Khufu. And this is also why his famous pyramid is called the Great Pyramid of Cheops, rather than the Pyramid of Khufu for most people.
The Great Pyramid of Cheops is massive. For around 4,000 years, it was the tallest man-made structure in the world, around 482 feet high.
We know that the pyramids, of course, were burial tombs for the ancient Egyptian kings, but also for the kings, they would be a show of their power, their majesty. So clearly, the Great Pyramid shows off the king's power. And if Khufu wanted to show this in other ways, what better way than to build a large sculpture combining his head with the body of a lion?
Some Egyptologists believe the artistic style of the Sphinx is consistent with Khufu's era.
Scholars have found a lot of evidence of associations of lions with the reign of Khufu. So it could very well be that whoever designed this monument was playing on the lion as a metaphor for Khufu's reign.
If truly Khufu did order the sculpting of the Sphinx, then it makes perfect sense, because looking at the Sphinx next to the Great Pyramid of Giza, Cheops' pyramid, it looks like the Sphinx is standing there with its profile guarding the tomb of the king.